All right. Well, good evening, everybody. It's so amazing. I'm so delighted to have so many of you here on the call with us. We just come back from an incredible tour across Alberta. We did. I sent an email out yesterday. It was 4 days, 5 cities, 400 kilometers, countless gallons of coffee, lots of new people, and I see so many of you here on the line tonight. So I'm so grateful that you've come out to join us. My name is Howard Olson. If we have not met yet, I'm broadcasting to you live from Vancouver, BC. And you just lost my camera. We're going to turn that back on. There we go. All right, perfect. So tonight, I really want to respect your time. I appreciate that you're in many different time zones, and I want to just get right into it, make this a worthwhile investment of your time. Thank you for joining me here for Carrot Bars, and I'm going to show you a program which we literally say will help you bring financial wholeness into a broken world. And at the end of the day, I think we all know that there is something wrong in the world here. We all feel that something's just not right. And tonight, I'm going to try to make sense of a little bit of that. And the place where I want to start is right here. So this whole program is really what I call a financial literacy program, helping educate people about what's really happening in the world, helping them make sense of that which does not make sense, and literally introduce a solution, not just a company, not just a product, but really a holistic solution that will teach people, train people how to create savings habits, turn some of your spending habits into savings habits, and then literally get paid in both cash and gold for doing it. And in so doing, enable us to accelerate our cash flow, eliminate our debts, and financially inflation-proof our futures. And so I want to get right into that. And I'm going to begin this evening's presentation with a quick little outtake from a video series put together by a gentleman named Mike Maloney. And if you're taking notes, if you got a piece of paper, I just want you to write this down. TheHiddenSecretsOfMoney.com. HiddenSecretsOfMoney.com. Mike Maloney, go Google that. He put together a 5-part, in fact, there's a bonus piece, a 6-part video series that chronicles the history of money over the course of 2,000 years, and really in layman's terms, in non-intimidating way, with beautiful graphics and animations, helps people understand how our world economy works and what we can do to maximize our opportunities within it. It's a brilliant series. And when I first discovered it, my wife and I, Michaela, each of those 5 first segments are broken into 25 to 30-minute pieces. And so for a whole week, we just did movie night. So Monday night, we did segment 1. Tuesday night, we did segment 2, 3, 4, until the week was done. And we had completed movie night. And my wife just looked at me and said, okay, I think I know where you're coming from now. And let's do this. So I want to begin this evening with just a 2-minute outtake because it'll set a beautiful framework for everything else that we're about to do. It'll make sense of where I'm going to go with all of this. So stand by. Here you go.
Your true wealth is your time and freedom. Money is just a tool for trading your time. It's a container to store your economic energy until you're ready to deploy it. But the whole world has been turned away from real money and has been fooled into using currency. A deceitful imposter that is silently stealing your 2 most valuable assets, your time and your freedom. Welcome to the rabbit hole.
We are entering a period of financial crisis that is the greatest the world has ever known. The wealth transfer that will take place during this decade is the greatest wealth transfer in history. Wealth is never destroyed, it is merely transferred, and that means that on the opposite side of every crisis there is an opportunity. The great news is that all you have to do to turn this crisis into your great opportunity is to educate yourself. I believe that the best investment that you can make in your lifetime is your own education. Education on the history of money, education on finance, education on how the global economy works, education on how all of these guys, the central bankers, the stock market, how they can cheat you, how they can scam you. If you learn what is going on and how the financial world works, you can put yourself on the correct side of this wealth transfer. Winston Churchill once said that the further you look into the past, the further that you can see into the future. This program is all about creating your own crystal ball, being able to gaze into the future, being able to change this crisis, the greatest crisis in the history of mankind, into your great opportunity.
All right. Well, I love what Mike Maloney has to say there. He says, you know, the best investment that you can make in your lifetime is to get educated about what's happening in the world, get educated about what's happening in our monetary system. And so tonight, I want to do a bit of that for you. I'm going to help you make sense of a couple high-level ideas. My job here is really not to sell you anything tonight. I really just want to educate and inform, perhaps inspire you to go deeper, and even help you shift a paradigm through which you look to help you shift the way you understand certain things are going on. And then with that knowledge, you'll have some power. So, you know, Mike Maloney says, if you want to really maximize your opportunity, get educated. So that's a great place, a nice segue. And I want to take you back to school. You remember we all went to, you remember grade school, 1, 2, 3, grade 4. We all learned the 3 R's. You remember those? You remember what the 3 R's are? Reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? Okay, so my question is, so we learned the 3 R's, we learned reading, writing, and arithmetic, but who taught you about money? Who is it that taught you about money? Now, I ask this question live when I'm doing a live presentation, and typically the answer that comes back, in fact, many of you on this call tonight have been in one of these live presentations recently, and I say, well, who taught you about money? And pretty much every head in the room goes, no one. You know, and maybe 1% of the time I'll hear, well, my parents did. You know, and some of us are very fortunate. We had great parents. They taught us what they knew. Some of our parents had really good money sense. And some of us had great parents that really wanted to teach us, but they taught us what they knew, which really wasn't all that much more than we do now. So who taught us about money? Well, in my experience, it's typically the banks. And, you know, I just remember graduating from university, fresh out of school. I didn't even have a job. And because I was a graduate, I got a credit card with a $10,000 limit on it and began financially hanging myself. Typically, what we find, it's the banks, the financial institutions, the for-profit corporations that have a vested interest in selling us their debt instruments that are teaching us about money. Now, if they're for-profit corporations, are they teaching us stuff that's in our best interest, or are they teaching us stuff that's in their best interest? I'm just going to let that float around in the back of your head. You can answer that question for yourself. I want to ask you another question. When you think about most Canadians and most Americans, most North Americans in a really general sense, do you think they have a plan to get themselves out of debt and have the ability to retire in the next 3 to 5 years? Let me ask you another question. Do you? And even if you do, how is that plan actually working for you? You see, I've asked that question literally thousands, maybe tens of thousands of times, and the answer that typically comes back is, well, no. You know, and or maybe you are financially well off. I have plenty of friends that are financially, you know, in a stable place, and even they all admit that their dollars aren't going as far as they once did. And can you think of anybody in your circle of influence who's stretched to the limit? Okay, so if that's true for you, I want to explain to you why that is, why there's no shame in it, and what we can actually do about it. Because you see, the numbers will never lie. As long as we look at the right numbers, the numbers will always, always tell us the truth. And since the Great Depression in 1932, under the Federal Reserve and the central banking systems, the dollar has lost 98% of its purchasing power, while gold, the vehicle that once backed our currency, there's a critical word, once backed our currency, does not anymore, has risen in value by 4,300%. That's staggering. Here's a snapshot of typical goods being purchased in a typical home in a typical week. And I tracked it over 20 years, broke it into 10 and 15, and since 1980, a loaf of bread has gone up 959%. Movie tickets have gone up 483%. Housing in many markets, particularly the one I live in here, Vancouver, it's just insane, almost 1,100%. Postage stamps, small spend, that's still an 800% increase, and milk has gone up by 257%. Now let me ask you this. Have you seen a 250 to 1,000% increase in the real wages that you can bring home in the past decade? I don't think so. I mean, I know I sure haven't, and none of the people that I've spoken to have, and I can't imagine you on this webinar tonight are any different. Okay, and why is it? Well, I'll tell you why. Because we have very real inflation that we're being told does not exist. And this is exactly the problem. This is why we're finding it so difficult to get ahead, create any real and meaningful savings. This is why we're living paycheck to paycheck. We're finding it difficult to eliminate our debts and really secure our retirements and our financial futures because we just can't get ahead of the inflation curve that the government tells us isn't there. But if you look at the right stuff, it's very clear. It's abundantly clear. And I want to say this to you very emphatically tonight. It is absolutely impossible to outrun exponential inflation on a declining linear income. All the studies that I've read, and if you've been looking at any of this kind of stuff, every single study tells us that in the last decade, income adjusted, inflation adjusted, our incomes have actually been stagnant and declining. And this is where the inflation curve hits. It is the gap between our income and the increase in price. And I want to show you in a moment that it's not actually an increase in price, okay? And you know, how do they hide inflation? I had a revelation last Friday as I was coming down the elevator in our office building. We had one of those television screens in the elevator, and it basically said inflation rate in July was 1%. But I remember seeing the same thing in June. The inflation rate in June was 1%. The inflation rate in May, over a year, that's 12%. And they hide it by giving it to you a month at a time. All right, let's look at this, because most people think that inflation is actually an increase in the price of goods. I would like to suggest to you that inflation is not an increase in the price of goods. Inflation is actually a decrease in our purchasing power, because it takes more of these paper units to go and get the things that we want. It's not that the price has gone up. And if you look at the price of goods in something that is a solid store of value, the price is unchanged. And here is a beautiful example. We can, I'm just going to use the example of like a men's suit. Now, I know that 2,000 years ago, during the rise of the Roman Empire, during the time that Jesus was on this earth, the suit of the day was actually a toga. It was a toga, a sash, robe, a fine crafted leather belt, and a pair of fine crafted leather sandals. And I know I can look into any historical or biblical text, and the suit of the day 2,000 years ago was 1 gold coin. Now, you could have walked into any fine men's shop in 1960, and the suit of the day then was actually, it was a blazer, a tie, a shirt, a handcrafted leather belt, a pair of fine trousers, and a nice pair of shoes, and that suit would have cost you the equivalent of 1 gold coin. Now, do any of you know what the price of gold is today? So I'll just make it easy here. It's between $1,100 and $1,200. It's fluctuating a bit. Now, you can walk into any fine men's shop today, and you get yourself a nice suit, a tie, a shirt, a handcrafted leather belt, and a nice pair of shoes. And what that outfit going to cost you? Exactly $1,100 to $1,200, 1 gold coin. I would like to propose to you that the price of that suit has not changed one iota in 2,000 years. 2,000 years ago, it was a gold coin. 60 years ago, it was a gold coin, and today it is still a gold coin. What has changed is it takes more paper dollars to get the suit. It takes more paper dollars to get the bread. It takes more paper dollars to get the gold, okay? It's the dollars that are declining, but when you measure the price of something in something that actually has value behind it, the price remains constant and fixed. Inflation is a decrease in purchasing power because they print more currency with no store of value behind it. And that's exactly what it is, and that's a beautiful illustration to help us look at it. We could look at it like this. If you had $100,000 worth of cash in 1932, that cash today is worth just $2,000 in purchasing power. Let's make this let's drive it home. What we're really saying is it takes $100 today to buy what $2 would have bought you back then. Or we could look at it like this. If you had $100,000 worth of cash, that same $100,000 of cash in 1932 and acquired gold with it, let it sit, accumulate absolutely no interest, today that gold would be worth a staggering $4,449,443. Gold has outperformed cash by more than 4,300%. That's unbelievable. But it's not that the price of the gold has gone up. It's that the value of the dollars have gone down, and it now takes more of these dollars to go and get this stuff. I hope you're getting this, because that's what we've got. It's a fiat currency. Fiat currencies are currencies that are literally printed out of thin air with no store of value behind them. No gold, no silver, nothing of tangible value. The word fiat is actually Latin, and the literal translation is, it shall be. And when I was making this slide, my wife, Michaela, was looking over my shoulder. She says, oh, it's money because they said so. Exactly. It's simply money because they said so. Well, who is they, we must ask? Well, we'll talk about that in just a few moments. All right. But here is a great quote from Thomas Jefferson, and if you know anything about the history of the United States, it was actually founded on a tax revolt. Basically, the founding fathers of the United States came to the new continent to create a brand new nation to get away from horrendous taxation policies and the inflating currency of the Bank of England and the nation of England as they were trying to build out the British Empire. And they at one time had a gold-backed currency. They needed more currency for their expansion, pulled the gold plug, their inflation went right through the roof. And here's what Thomas Jefferson said. This was a warning to all of the future generations as they were founding this country. He said, If the American people will ever allow private banks and the corporations that grow up around them, they will deprive the people of their property until their children wake up homeless on the continent that their fathers conquered. And he knew exactly what he was talking about because he saw it play out in England. They came to create a new nation, and look at what we got today. Look at the homeless rates that we got. Look at the debt problems that we've got, not just at a government level, but at the very individual level, at the you and me level. All right. I want to show you this because this is a great infographic that will help us really see it. And about a decade ago, a little more perhaps, I read a book, and if you're taking notes, write this down. A book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. Now, this is not a chronicling of Jekyll and Hyde. Jekyll Island is a real place. It is an island off the coast of Georgia. It had a very fancy private boardroom in it. In 1910 to 1913, the then heads of J.P. Morgan, Chase Manhattan, Citigroup, Bank of America, and the Rothschild banking empire got together in a boardroom on Jekyll Island and created what would become the Federal Reserve banking system. And when I read this book, it literally changed it. In some ways, it changed my life. It changed the lens through which I pretty much looked at everything. And the first revelation is that the Federal Reserve, the only thing federal about it is its name. It is a private bank headquartered in Puerto Rico. It's not even headquartered in the United States. It is a private bank headquartered in Puerto Rico. You can go onto their website and see this for yourself. And since 1913, this private bank with just a handful of shareholders, the chairpersons of Citigroup, Bank of America, Chase Manhattan, J.P. Morgan, all these guys are on the board of directors of this private corporation, which since 1913 has been dictating global economic and fiscal policy. We continue looking down this infographic and look at 1944. That's significant because 1944 was World War II was coming to an end. The United States was emerging as the world's global economic power. And to normalize and stabilize trade, the Bretton Woods Accords set up a set of rules under which the US dollar would become the world's reserve currency. And basically what that meant is that every other currency on the planet would be pegged to gold so that there would be a fixed exchange rate on it so that trade could be normalized. And so, for example, if you wanted to buy goods from China, you would buy them in US dollars, and the two central banks between those two nations would sort out the difference. But you made your purchase in US dollars. You know, that worked fine for a while. 1971, this is significant. 1971, the United States is coming out of a very costly, both in humans and in financial terms, the Vietnam War, and the U.S. had gone into deficit spending. Now, under a gold standard, when you have a gold-backed currency, every note in circulation must represent a proportional amount of gold. So the paper is actually a note which represents gold in the vault. And when you have a gold currency, a gold-backed currency, you cannot print more paper unless you have gold to represent the new paper that you're about to print. Well, here's what happened. They're coming out of the Vietnam War. They're heavily in debt. They don't have enough currency to pay their debts. So Nixon says, listen, we're going to pull the gold standard, and that gave him free license to start printing incredible amounts of money. Now, that gold standard has never been restored. But there was a second problem here. Under the 44 Bretton Woods Accord, every other currency was pegged to the U.S. dollar. So when the U.S. dollar had the gold standard pulled, okay, and it became a freely floating fiat currency with unrestricted printing on it, every other currency on the planet became a freely floating fiat currency with unrestricted printing on it, and they've been printing money like there is no tomorrow behind that. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you that there is a tomorrow coming, and it will not be pretty because this is where our inflation's coming. They keep printing this money like it's going out of control. Now, I know that we have a lot of Canadians on this webinar tonight, so let's give this a Canadian context too. This is a quote from William Lyon Mackenzie King. He was our prime minister during the time that the Bank of Canada was being established. And this, too, was a warning to future generations. Here's what he said. The issuance of credit and currency is the state's most precious resource. Once a nation gives up control of its currency, it matters not who makes the laws, because usury, once in control, will wreak havoc on any nation. Now, he knew what he was talking about because the Bank of Canada was actually established in 1934. It opened its doors, and the sole purpose of the Bank of Canada was to provide interest-free loans to the federal government and to the provincial governments so that we could create the national and provincial infrastructures that built up this magnificent country. It was interest-free loans from the Bank of Canada because it was the people's bank, our bank. We own this bank. We controlled our own credit. We controlled our own currency. And it was those funds that actually created the Trans-Canada Highway. It paid for the national rail lines. It built up all of our hospitals, our schools, and all the other key infrastructures that made this such a magnificent country. In 1974, Canada was invited to come and join the G8. And you know what the cost of admission was? They basically said you must give up control of your credit and currency, and any loans that need to come into your federal and provincial governments must come in from the Bank of International Settlements. You can no longer issue and control your own credit and currency. And if you do not join the G20, we'll blackball you from all future trade deals. So it was almost like a blackmail deal. And when we joined the G8, from that point forward, all of the funds that go into our military, our roads, our provincial, our federal, and all the deficit spending is foreign money being loaned in by foreign banks, privately owned central banks. And when we pay our taxes, although it goes to pay down the debt, that money is going offshore to a private banking consortium where it used to run into us. William Klein knew exactly what he was talking about, because this game has repeated through history over and over again with nations, and it was a warning to us not to let it happen here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's happened here too. I want to show you what this looks like. Okay? If you know anything about the history of the United States, it was founded in 1776. Now, this chart looks from 65, but just, look onto the horizon, look out to the left, 1776. And at about 2008 here, that's when we had that the housing bubble, the crash, the big economic crash 7 years ago, right? All right, so all I want you to look at here is where that red line is in 2008. So from 1776 to 2008, it took 200 years for the United States to put $825 billion worth of currency into circulation. 2008, we had the housing bubble, we had the big crash of the markets, we had the bank bailouts. Who got bailed out? J.P. Morgan, Chase Manhattan, Citigroup, Bank of America, the same guys that crashed the system. And where did it come from? Loans from the Federal Reserve. They basically used the taxpayer dollars to pay themselves out for the system that they very much crashed. And from that point forward, we had QE1, QE2, QE3. We're now getting ready to go into QE4. And from 2008, now this is what I want you to get here. From 2008 to present day, we have quadrupled the monetary supply, and we're now sitting at over $3 trillion. I don't know how many zeros are in a trillion, but it's a lot, okay? And it's not just the United States. Every major economy on the planet is playing with fiat currency, which is being controlled by private banks. Here's what Canada's chart looks like. 2008, bang. China, 2008, bang. Same thing. India, Australia, Russia, Singapore. Every major country on the planet is inflating and devaluing their currencies, and this is why we're in such a huge global economic mess. And I do believe that at some point in time, the reset button is going to have to get set on this thing, and history proves it over and over again that, in fact, it does. This is a very profound quote from Henry Ford, and if you know anything about the automotive industry, it's an industry that builds cars reliant on car loans so that consumers can buy their product. Here's what Henry Ford had to say. It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. That's profound. All right. Couple more points I want to make on fiat currency, and then we'll stop painting this dark picture, and I'm going to show you a glimmer of hope, okay? But in Mike Maloney's video series, he interviews a guy in there, I can't remember his name, but they basically tried to chronicle every single fiat currency that had been created since records were kept. They went back 2,000 years, and they wanted to chronicle all the fiat currencies and figure out how long they actually survived. And they started counting. They started the alphabet, A, B, C, D, and they got all the way through the A's. They got all the way through the B's, and by the time they got to the end of the B's, they were already at 6,000, and not one single one of them was still in existence today. Out of 6,000 fiat currencies, they had all crashed, they'd all been wiped out, they were all disappeared, and they said, it's not even worth continuing to count this. Now, here's what we do know. The average fiat currency over the history of time has had an average lifespan of 27 years. Today, Canada's fiat currency is 41 years old, and the United States' fiat currency is 44 years old. Now, here's the question I need to ask. I ask myself this, and I'm going to ask you to ask yourself this. If the average fiat currency lasts 27 years, and we've outlived that average by almost 20, and we have lost 98% of our purchasing power, how much more of the remaining 2% can we actually lose before our currency blows? I don't have the answer to that question. I don't know if it's tomorrow or 2 years, but I know at some point it will no longer exist, and everybody's saying there is a currency crisis coming, and everybody knows it, and everybody feels it, and everybody senses that something's not right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what's not right. This is the problem right here. So let me ask you this. Let me show you this. Voltaire, Another nation, France, has been through this cycle of crashing fiat currencies more times than we can count. And here's what he said. Paper money will always return to its intrinsic value, zero. And last but not least, this is Ray Dalio. Some of you will know him, some of you won't. Let me tell you who he is. Ray Dalio is arguably one of the wealthiest men in the United States. He is an incredible philanthropist. He's very generous with his money. He's considered a philosopher. He's incredibly intellectual. He's also an entrepreneur, and he also happens to be the president, CEO, and founder of Bridgewater and Associates, the most successful hedge fund in the United States today. In the entire history of their organization, they have never lost a nickel in any of their investments or for any of their clients. And here's what Ray Dalio has to say. If you don't own gold, you simply don't know history. And I love what Winston Churchill says. The further you look into the past, the further you can see into the future. And here's a glimpse of it right here. So let me ask you a question. Everybody on this call, you probably live somewhere, live in a house, maybe an apartment. Do you have some form of homeowners insurance or contents insurance? I bet that you do. And everybody on this call probably has some form of medical insurance, either state provided or otherwise. Yeah, of course you got some medical insurance. And you've probably got some form, if you're driving a car, a motorcycle, or a motor vehicle of some sort, do you have automotive insurance? Of course you do. Well, let me ask you this. How about money insurance? Do you have any of that? Oh, come on, Howard, what are you talking about? Money insurance? What is that? Well, let me tell you about money insurance, because all the experts recommend, listen, everything we hear, everything we see, everything we look at, and everything we're surrounded with, basically all the experts say, listen, get at least 20% of your portfolio into gold. Hold gold and hedge yourself against inflation. So we've all seen that, and I think most of us would actually even buy into that. You know, and since I've gotten involved with Karatbars, I'm having a lot of conversations about gold, and a lot of these conversations are with people that have never owned it. And I say, so what do you know about gold and what do you like about it? He says, I know I should have some, and I've always looked for a place to get it. The number of times that I've heard that, I can't even count it anymore. So gold is clearly an answer when it comes to storing value and hedging inflation. But here's the problem. First of all, it's expensive. It's unaffordable for most. At $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 an ounce, and gold is typically sold by the ounce, at $1,200 an ounce, most of us just can't afford it. We just don't have $1,200 in our pocket that we can actually go down to the bullion guy, get ourselves an ounce at a time, and start creating any real and meaningful savings. You know, I was talking with a gentleman a couple weeks back. We were talking about gold. He says, I understand the value proposition. He says, $1,200, it intimidates me. I can't afford it, and I have to save, literally get the gold. When am I ever going to create savings out of it? So gold is unaffordable. But there's another problem. Even if you can afford it, it's inaccessible. Many of us just don't even know where to get it. Okay, so I understand that I need to get some gold, but where do I get it? How do I get my hands on it? How do I acquire it? And once I have it, where do I store it? Where do I keep it? How do I keep it safe and secure? And last but not least, there's another problem with it. It's difficult to use in its current format. You know, you can't just go down to the gas station or the baker and give them an ounce of gold worth $1,200 for your next loaf of bread or your next tank of gas and expect to get change in return. We still live in an economy that is driven by currency, so it's difficult to use. This, by the way, is actually a Canadian maple leaf. That is, in today's terms, about 1,400 Canadian dollars. I'll show it to you in another second for a very specific reason. So it's difficult to use. So clearly gold is the answer, but we need to get it into a more usable format. And this is where I'd like to propose to you and share with you a beautiful solution. This is called a Karatbar. Karatbars International is a German company based in Stuttgart, Germany, that specializes in making 99.999 pure currency-grade gold available to people of the world by producing it in smaller, more affordable, transaction-friendly formats and pricing it accordingly so people that couldn't previously afford to get their hands on gold now can. They make it transaction-friendly so that you can actually have it in spendable amounts. And this is really what the product is all about. It comes in 1 gram, 2.5 gram, and 5 gram increments, which are substantially less than an ounce. And all this program is really all about is teaching people how to set up a savings program and literally just begin exchanging some of their declining paper notes and putting it into small increment gold so they can begin saving in a better savings vehicle that will hedge them against inflation. And so if I were doing a live seminar, in fact, many of you on this call were either in Calgary or Red Deer or Edmonton when we were doing those meetings, or even in Sylvan Lake. And we did it. We did a little example, So if I were in the States, I'd have $1 and I'd have 4 quarters, and I'd make sure somebody in the audience had 4 quarters, and I'd hold up my $1 and I'd say, okay, who can make change on a US dollar? And so invariably somebody puts their hand up and says, oh, I can, and they show me the 4 quarters. So I give them my $1, and I receive from them in return the 4 metal quarters. And then I just simply ask the audience, did I actually just buy anything? And everybody goes, no. I said, so did I buy anything from him? And they go, no. Did he buy anything from me? No. What just happened? Well, you just exchanged it. Exactly. And what Karatbars is all about is simply about changing forms of money. And I'm going to tell you something right now. Beautiful, beautiful quote from Ben Bernanke. He's the one who actually started the quantitative easing when he was chairman of the Fed. And when he was chairman of the Fed, he always said, gold is not money. And now that he's no longer the chairman of the Fed, somebody once asked him at a conference about 6 months ago, they said, Ben Bernanke, what do you think of gold? He said, gold is money. And then he was challenged on it. They said, well, you would have never said that as chairman of the Fed. And he basically said, when I was chairman of the Fed, I could not have said that to my puppet masters. But make no mistake about it, gold is money. And for 6,000 years, gold has been money, and we've clearly demonstrated that it outperforms cash. So all we're doing here is exchanging paper for gold in small increments so we can do it, we can access it, and Karatbars has created this beautiful e-commerce platform where you can literally do it online. It's magnificent, okay? And then when you need it, basically exchanging these Karatbars, which are held in savings, either in your home, in your pocket, or in a vault, and changing them back into currency at the time you need it, having fully hedged yourself against the ravages of inflation. That's what this program is all about. We're actually not selling anything. We're showing people how to save money in a better vehicle. Here's the product. Again, like I said, they come in 1 gram, 2.5 gram, and 5 gram increments. They're 99.999 pure currency grade gold, certified and stamped true by the LBMA. Now, some of you will know it, some of you won't. LBMA stands for the London Bullion Market Association, and this is the governing body that regulates the refineries that mint and smelt currency grade gold. It is absolutely the purest form of gold available, and Karatbars is one of only 2 of these LBMA certified products in the market carrying an LBMA stamp in this kind of format. It's affordable. A gram is about $60. Everybody can afford to go get a gram of gold at a time, get a gram of gold at a time, and when you need it, it's in small denominations. And I'm going to show you in just a second here why I think that is so important. And when I got my, so basically, do I have one here? Here is actually, so you see picture, this is actually one of my Karatbars. This is the real product. And if you look at it, you put it under a black light, there's actually a black light hologram technology on this thing. Every one of them has an LBMA stamp on it. Every one of them has a unique serial number on it. And when I got my very first one, I took it down my bullion. And listen, one of the things I didn't share with you is that for the last 12 years or so, my wife and I have been buying significant quantities of gold. We have plenty of 1 ounce maple leafs. We've got quite a few 10 ounce Royal Canadian Mint bars, and we've got some kilo bars. That's a lot of gold. And so I know these guys down at my bullion shop. They know me by name. They know my face. I walked in one day with one of these Karatbars, and I simply asked the question, if I came in with one of these one day, and I needed currency in return for it, would you give me currency for this piece of gold? And he says, well, I don't know. I've never seen one. He said, give it to me. So I handed it to him. He took it behind the counter. He kind of did like this, looked at it just like I am now, put it under a microscope, took another look at it, went online, presumably to Google something. He came back about 3-4 minutes later, and he simply said to me, he said, yeah, I'd give you money for that. And I said, how much? He said, whatever the market price of gold is today. And that's when I knew I had a winner on my hand, because he'd never even seen one and was instantly willing to give me cash for it. And I said, now I know I got a winner on my hand. I won't get into all the security features onto this card, but there are plenty of security features to validate its long-term authenticity. It's a beautiful product. And I want to show you why 1 gram increments are so important, okay? Listen, let's go back to 1971, just a couple of months before Nixon pulled the gold standard, okay? If you had 1 gram of gold in 1971, that 1 gram of gold would have got you 5 loaves of bread. If you had $1 in 1971, that $1 would have got you 4 loaves of bread. Pretty even exchange. And if you understand what the peg was, it actually makes sense. Basically, $1 represented 1/32nd of an ounce of gold. And it takes 32 grams to get an ounce. So basically, the gold is just slightly more voluminous. At that time, it's a pretty even exchange, just like the peg on the dollar. Let's look at what that looks like today. Today, if you have 1 gram of gold, I have 1 gram of gold. 1 gram of gold today will get you 20 loaves of bread. $1 won't even get you a couple of slices. It won't even get you a full loaf. And what I want to demonstrate to you here is that it's gold, not paper, which is the true hedge against inflation, which is truly and has always been sound money. And I'm just going to go right out here. You know, the beautiful thing about gold is it's God's money. He created it. He created it. You can't debase it. You can't dilute it. You can't print it. You can't monkey with it. It's pure, and it's always been considered money. It's even money today. But I want to show you why also, from my perspective, why this is so important. Listen, I won't talk about the numbers, but I have a lot of these. Now, this is a true Canadian maple leaf. That is 1 ounce. It's very dense. Now, let's just say we come into a period of hyperinflation and we do have a currency crisis, and I really do believe that this is coming. This is coming sooner rather than later, in my opinion, and I seem to be not the only one sharing that opinion. If I only have a 1 ounce coin, if I've only got a 1 ounce bar of gold or 10 ounce or whatever it is, and I need some currency for my daily spend. Now listen, what happens in a time of hyperinflation is that the prices of goods in currency begin doubling, first by the month, then by the week, then by the day, and sooner or later happens by the hour. And I can tell you countless examples of how this has happened. You can just Google hyperinflation and you'll hear about it. The problem is, if I only have ounces, and I go down to the bullion guy, and let's just keep it simple and say it's still worth $1,200. And I give him, I can't cut this thing in half, and I can't cut it into quarters. I've got to give him the whole thing. So I'll give him the gold, he'll give me the $1,200, but I only need to spend $100. I've now got $1,100 worth of change in my pocket, and while I still have 1,100 notes, the purchasing power of those notes in a period of hyperinflation begin to decline. They cut in half, literally. Day on day, hour on hour, and now all of a sudden inflation is hitting me right in my own pocket on the currency that I've got. The beautiful thing about a little carrot bar, okay, is that because it's 1 gram, and let's say today it's worth $60, okay, this represents to me a basket of groceries a year ago, a basket of groceries today, a basket of groceries 3 years from now. This is my spendable daily gold that I can actually convert back into currency at the time I need it without having to watch the rest of that change. Inflation, it just deflate itself and evaporate in my pocket because I got too much cash. This is spendable gold. This is a beautiful product. And my wife and I have come to the conclusion that our goal now, and we've been doing it for a year, is to acquire as many of these as we can possibly get our hands on to protect ourselves for the days that lie on the horizon, and I do believe that they're coming. Okay, and I'm going to show you in just a second here a system that will help you acquire them, literally subsidized by the system, ultimately to the point of zero. That's amazing. I want to show you what this looks like in real terms, in savings terms, okay? Let's just say you had decided to set aside $300 a month, and you did that for 20 years. So from 1995 to 2015, let's just say you put aside, I don't know, $60 a week, $300 a month, $300 a month for 20 years. At the end of 20 years, you would have set aside $72,000 worth of cash. Now, forget about compounding interest and all that. I want to keep it simple. And honestly, today the banks are paying, some of them are paying negative interest. Okay, can you believe that? Negative interest. I don't get it. But most of us aren't even getting interest on our money anymore. So just, you've got 20 years, you got $72,000 set aside. I want you to look at, just at today's inflation rates, that $72,000, you still got $72,000 in cash, but the purchasing power relative to when you first started saving is down to $56,000. You've lost $16,000 worth of your purchasing power. Let's look at the same thing in gold. You take $300 a month, you put it aside into gold. At the end of 20 years, you still have set aside $72,000 worth of currency. It's just now sitting in gold. The purchasing power of that gold today, however, is now worth $236,000, or a net increase in purchasing power of $164,000. Can you see the implications of this in terms of a savings program, in terms of saving for your retirement, or perhaps putting money aside for your children's education fund, or anything else that might be important to you? I mean, just think about this. Let's just say you put we know that inflation is real. We know that our purchasing power is declining. I think we've made that point. We've all experienced it anyway. Let's just say you put $10,000 into your kids or your grandkids, your grandchildren's education fund. You put $10,000 in there. What's it worth 15 years from now when they're ready to go to school? What if you put $10,000 of gold into their education fund and let it just sit there and hedge itself until they're ready to use it? That's what I'm talking about here, a better savings program. So how would you rather save? In these declining paper notes that eventually become worth zero, or as Harold Zeitz, the founder of our company, says, I'm not going to say what he says, garbage money, or in a real store of value that holds its value over time and actually increases relative to declining currency? I know what the answer is for me, and I hope you're coming to a similar conclusion as I am. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're really talking about here is a pay yourself first savings program. It is just a better savings vehicle, okay? And if you ask any person of financial substance what the number one secret to success is, financial success, they'll all tell you. Listen, when you come into money and when you come into assets, pay yourself first. In other words, when you come into money and you come into assets, don't go out and buy yourself the stuff that you want. Put 10% of it or 20% of it into a savings account. Pay yourself first, leave it alone, and go spend the rest. Okay, and that's what this is. This is a pay yourself first savings program. So, what if I could actually show you how to acquire pure 99.999 pure currency grade gold, Karatbars gold, literally for nothing out of your pocket, subsidized from a system, literally to the point of zero, without having any out-of-pocket expenses on it. And what also, if I could show you how to leverage that same system to create a significant weekly passive residual income, would it be worth taking a look at? And I've asked that question a lot too, and I have not had anybody say, no, I wouldn't take a look. Now, not everybody says they're going to do it, but everybody will at least look. So let me show you how it works, okay? But the question is, are you ready for some money insurance now? Because I hope by now that I have demonstrated that inflation is a very real problem, that gold is a protective shield against it, that it holds its value over long periods of time. So are you ready for money insurance now? And I hope that you are. Let me show you how this works. At Karatbars International, we have devised as affiliates what we call a 12-week plan to financial freedom. And this 12-week plan to financial freedom is really designed to help people change their spending habits, convert them into savings habits, and then literally start getting paid in both cash and gold to do it. Literally what we're going to show people how to do here is, listen, we all know that if you want to create a new habit, you need repetitive behavior over and over again to get there. So we call this a 12-week plan, and everything I'm about to talk about is completely self-directed. It is completely optional. It's, you can do whatever you like. All we know is that we've created a plan which has proven tens of thousands of times over to actually be effective. Okay, and so we call it a 12-week plan to financial freedom. For me, it's not a 12-week plan. This is my life plan. And Smokin' Joe Frazier, some would argue the greatest boxing heavyweight champion of all times. Now, I don't care whether you like sports or boxing or not. This is just a beautiful metaphor. Direct quote from Smokin' Joe Frazier. He said, "You can map out a fight plan or you can map out a life plan. But when the action starts, you're down to your reflexes. That's where your road work shows, and if you cheated on that in the dark of the morning, you're going to get found out now on the bright lights, because champions do not become champions in the ring. They become champions in the reflexes and the habits that they created." Well, it's the same thing here. If you want to have financial success, your financial success will be evident once you've created the habit to create it. So we've got for you a beautiful system that will create a savings habit. Give up a couple Starbucks and begin saving. And begin saving in a better vehicle. So let me show you. It's a 3-step plan. Let me show you how it works. It's really simple. Step number 1. You've seen a presentation. Somebody invited you to take a look at it. Go and get their referral link and set yourself up with a free gold savings account. That's exactly true. It's what I said. Set yourself up with a free account. You can do it for absolutely nothing. It takes about 90 seconds. And at the end of 90 seconds, you've got your free account. And you now have access to the complete back office and the complete e-commerce platform so that you can begin acquiring gold and selling it as you need it. Now, I'm going to highly encourage you, begin acquiring gold. Don't sell it immediately. The point of a savings plan is to build up a nest egg. Build up a better nest egg. Step number 2. If you believe that saving money is a valuable and important thing to do, and you believe that gold is a good way to do it, what we tell people to do is, listen, convert some of this declining currency and go get yourself a gram a week. Do that for at least 12 weeks, because at the end of 12 weeks, you will have created a savings habit, and it actually becomes painless. Convert the declining paper, get a gram a week, a gram a week, a gram a week, a gram a week, and you'll be amazed at the store of value that you've set aside at the end of the year, hedged against inflation. And then step number 3 is simply this. If you want to create some residual income out of the Karatbars system, just go find 2 others, listen, and here's the thing, you don't need to sell this to anybody. Just invite them to watch a webinar like this, or some of the videos that we've posted online, or do a 3-way call, or just invite them to come and get some information. Find 2 who will watch the video and say, listen, you know what? It makes sense to me. And they decide to do the same thing too. And you can literally start setting up a complete referral commission for just having saved. So how does this work? All right, well, let me show you how it works. Now, some of you will have already done a bunch of research on this. Maybe you've been online, you've seen the marketing plan, you watched some videos, maybe you're hearing about this for the first time. But anybody, so basically everything you read and everything you see about the Karatbars compensation plan says there are 7 ways to get paid, and that is absolutely true. And all 7 of these things are operating simultaneously, 7 income streams happening live time all together. 7 ways to get paid, but the truth of the matter is the last 4 are a direct result of the first 3. So I just want to look at the first 3 tonight, okay? I'm going to show you what these look like: direct commissions, package bonuses, and team cycle bonuses. Let's take a look. So here's the direct commissions. So let's just say that you've gone ahead and you've decided to set yourself up with a free Karatbars Gold Savings account, okay? The minute you set up your free account, simultaneously, Karatbars sets you up with what I like to call your personal referral box, okay? It came free with your account. You still haven't spent anything. You haven't bought anything. You've done nothing really but set up a free account. Now, I want you to, and here's what happens. Anytime you refer somebody to Karatbars who makes a purchase of any amount, Karatbars will send you a commission at the end of the month between 0.5% and 6%, dependent on the total volume of sales that took place that month, okay, whether you purchased anything or not. That to me is astronomical. That to me is unbelievable. I think this is the greatest thing I've ever seen, because honestly, I've never seen a company who will pay you a commission if you yourself are not a customer. Now, you're officially a customer, but you still haven't bought anything, and as long as you refer somebody, they'll pay you if you refer them in and they buy something. That is amazing to me. Now, I want you to notice something. You sit outside the box. You're outside of the box because you cannot earn a commission on your own purchases. So here's what happened. Now, this is all predicated on the whole idea of 2 who get 2, who find 2, who find 2. Okay? Now, I want, so, you know, here's 2. You come in and you work with your sponsor, you work with me, you work with somebody else, and you find 2. And those 2 then do the same thing and find 2, and then those 2 find 2, and then those 2 find 2, and sooner or later your personal referral box is full. Now, it can go wide, it can go deep. It's not restricted. It's just a graphic illustration of this. And during the course of the month, all these people decide, okay, this is a good idea. I want to save some money. And every time they buy gold, or anything else for that matter, all that money goes into your personal referral box. And at the end of the month, Karatbars is going to send you a commission on all of those purchases, even if you yourself didn't purchase anything. Now listen, I want to fully acknowledge right here, right now, we do not live in a perfect world. Some are going to find 2, some are going to find none, that's for sure, and some of you on this call tonight are going to go out and find dozens upon dozens upon dozens, because you're just going to very simply say, what do you know about gold, what do you like it, and what if I could show you a way to save it and get it for almost nothing? And when somebody says, I'd like to learn about that, you show them what we're watching right now, and all of a sudden they become gold savers just like you, and that's how this perpetuates. All right, let me show you what this looks like in real terms. Here's the power of this, okay? 300 people saving a gram a week, 300 people consistently saving a gram a week equals $35,000 to $50,000 in residual income just because you help people save. What would an extra $35,000 to $50,000 a year, without you having to give up your job or your lifestyle or anything else that you're up to, what would that impact of that be for you? $35,000 to $50,000 a year because you helped somebody learn how to save better. Well, 300 people, you might be saying, well, that's a lot of people. Actually, it's not. 2 who find 2 who find 2. When that happens 6.5 times, that's 300 people. And I'm telling you, the money is much quicker than that, and it doesn't cost anybody else anything extra, because Karatbars is actually selling their product at market rate. When you get to 300 people, we start getting into the exponential growth arena. 1,000 people who've decided to save in a better way, that's an extra $100,000 a year. What kind of impact would that have to your bottom line? Now, I'm not talking get rich quick. It takes a little work. It takes a little effort. It takes a few presentations. It takes a couple phone calls. But if you're willing to do that, you can actually begin to get this kind of residual income. And the beautiful thing about it is, this now becomes income from which you can begin to save. Unbelievable. Like, am I the only one that thinks this is the best thing I've ever seen? And all of this, even if you haven't purchased anything yourself, that's amazing. Really, what this program is, I'm going to say it just like this. First of all, I look at this like my long-term pension plan. I know that the government plan is not going to be here. I know my RSPs, or my IRAs, if you call them that in the States, they're shrinking to inflation. This is, listen to me very carefully, we save money first. We get paid to show others how to save. We save money first. We get paid to show others how to save. It's worth one more time. We save money first. We get paid showing others how to save. Brilliant. Now, let me show you part two. So what I just shared with you, that personal referral box, that's free of charge. You don't, even if you hadn't bought it, you participated. Everybody participates in this. What I'm going to share with you now is for people that actually want to create a home-based business, a sideline, or even turn this into a full-time business. And to participate here, it's an optional system called the Dual Team Affiliate Plan. And to participate in the Dual Team Affiliate Plan, you need to become an affiliate. To become an affiliate, you need to buy an affiliate package. It's a one-time spend. You don't renew it monthly. You don't renew it annually. You buy it once. You are now an affiliate, and you can participate in everything I'm about to show you. There are 4 different packages. There's a bronze, silver, gold, and VIP. Obviously, they have different price points on it. And the way I like to see it, it's kind of like your business license. You can buy a small business license, which will generate smaller amounts of revenue. You can buy a larger business license, which will generate larger amounts of revenue. Let me show you how this works, okay? Now, first of all, the word dual team, there's a lot of clues in here. Dual means 2. We're going to build 2 teams. We're going to build a left team, and we're going to build a right team. We're also going to get 2 income streams. So here it is, repeat after me. 2 teams, 2 streams. 2 teams, 2 income streams. 2 teams, 2 income streams. That came out of me in a meeting in Calgary, just flowed right out, and my friend Doris Ptolemy, man, she just caught that, texted, she says, that was good, you need to remember that. So there you go. 2 teams, 2 streams, that's what this one's all about, okay? So here's how this looks. All right, we got these 4 packages. Here's the price on them. A bronze package is a one-time purchase, it's 99 euros, a gold is 580, and a VIP is 1575. What you need to understand here is that the income you generate is not dependent on how you qualified a month. It's not dependent on the quantity that you sold this month. It is completely dependent on the package you bought and only on the package that you bought. So here's how this works. If you become an affiliate and having purchased one of these packages and you now refer other affiliates, Karatbars is going to send you a one-time, what we call direct package bonus as a way to say thank you for bringing a new affiliate. If you're bronze, you get 5%. 10%, 15% as a gold, or 20% as a VIP. So let's just show you how this works. Let's just say you've watched this presentation, you got your free account, and now you decided to become an affiliate. You're an affiliate, and you decide to sponsor a brand new affiliate who becomes a VIP. So the person that you introduced, doesn't matter which one you are, you introduce a new person, they become a VIP. If you were a bronze, you would have earned 5%. If you were a silver, you would have earned 10%. If you were gold, you would have received 236 euros. If you were a VIP yourself, you would have got 315. You see how this works? The amount that you earn off of their purchase is a function of the package that you yourself bought. It has nothing to do with anything else. Pretty simple, right? And when I looked at this, I said, wait a minute. Same number of phone calls, same number of presentations, 5% or 20%. That's a 400% increase. You know, that was within my means. I'm just going to go for I take the VIP package. Now, if you cannot afford a VIP package, start where you can, and you can always upgrade for the difference in price later. So that's a direct package bonus. You don't share it with anybody. It is a one-time thank you to you. And when you start building a business, these come in fast and furious. I can tell you that's the truth. But there's a second thing. And now the first part rewards bringing new business partners. This now rewards team building. And here's how this works. Karatbars pays out what are called cycle bonuses. And every product in the Karatbars system has what's called units attached to them. So what is a unit? People, what's a unit? What's a unit? Listen, every product has different levels of profit margin. The easiest metaphor I can use is kind of like go down to the car dealership. Let's say you go to a GM dealership. The Cadillac Escalade has a large price, but it's also got a large profit margin. The Chevy Chevette has a lower price, but it also has a low profit margin. So units really are nothing more than an expression of profit margin, the amount of profit margin that Karatbars puts back into the field. And every time a product gets purchased, units get attached to all of your team members, including you and anybody up from where that happens. So everybody gets units. Every time you accumulate 75 of these units, these profit-sharing units, you get a cycle bonus. And here's how it works. If you're a bronze, same idea. If you're a bronze, you get 10 euros every time you hit 75. If you're a gold, you get 60 euros every time you hit 75. And if you're a VIP, you get 80 euros. I just looked at this. I said, wait a minute, 10, 80. That's an 800% increase. To me, going VIP is the only thing that makes sense because I actually believe I'm going to do this. And I'm actually hopefully demonstrating to you I am doing this. Okay, so let me show you how this works. I'm going to tell you my story because this is very real, and here's how it goes. I signed up July 31st, July 31st, 2014, just a year and a week ago. And I looked at it. I signed up as a VIP. That afternoon, I ran home. I was invited to a party at my friend George, and he might be even on the call tonight. I'll check for him in a few moments. And so I went and told, I said, and George, like he's like me, sees what's happening, loves gold. And I said, George, I said, listen, I did something I swore I'd never do. He says, what's that? I said, I joined up for an affiliate marketing program. He said, why? I said, it's gold. He said, you're kidding me. I said, no, I'm not kidding you. ETFs? I said, no, George, real gold bullion in a way that everybody around the world can actually afford it, so that we can actually go out and help a bunch of people that can't afford it like we can, and they'll actually pay a handsome commission without hurting anybody. He says, show me your website. So I opened it up. He's got a party going on his dick. In the middle of his party, takes a look at my computer, and right there with a house full of guests, signs up. And George says, okay, it makes sense to me. I'll buy a VIP package. And when he bought a VIP package, 100 units went in. Okay, VIP, 100 units. So I got 100 units sitting there. Every time you hit 75, you get a cycle bonus. But the 75 can't be from just one side, one team. It has to be a combination of 50 and 25. And Karatbars doesn't care whether it's 50 left or 50 right. It's any combination of 50 and 25 that adds to 75, you get a cycle bonus. So I got 100 units sitting there. So no cycle bonus that day. 2 days later, I'm talking to my friend Bruce. I tell Bruce exactly the same thing. I said, Bruce, I found a way to get our hands on gold, help other people get our hands on gold, and actually make a commission on this. He said, really? Show me the website. So I showed him the website, showed him I think it was like an 8-minute video, and he says, all right, I can't afford a VIP, but I want to buy a gold package. He bought a gold, so now I got 50. Now I got 100 on the left, and I got 50 on the right. That generates 2 cycles, and because I'm a VIP, if you just look over on the left-hand side of the screen, as a VIP, I get 80 euros per cycle. There's 2 cycles, and while I'm literally on vacation last summer in my first week, 2 times 80, 160 euros, about $220 goes right into my bank account. But there's something else going on here, okay? I happen to be the sponsor of both George and Bruce, and so when they signed up, I also got 20% of George's VIP package, and I got 20% of Bruce's gold package, and that stuck another 431 euros into my account, and now I'm sitting at 591 euros while I'm actually on vacation. A couple weeks go by, somebody shows up over here. I don't even know who the lady on the left is. And then George and I have a conversation with a lady named Julie. Julie shows up. She gets a VIP package. We have a couple of conversations with her and a few people. We show them some videos, and all of a sudden a bunch of people show up. Now I got a pile of units sitting down and I want you to look at this. Not only do I get those units, but George gets the units. Julie gets all the units under her. They all get units, all right? So now I got 570 units sitting here, no cycles because there's nothing on the right. Now, I have a speaking and training business, and I happened to be in Toronto in September of last year. And somewhere between getting on stage and getting off the stage, somewhere between breakfast and lunch, 4 people showed up on my right side that I had nothing to do with. Like, I don't know who they are. But 300 units showed up. You divide that by 50 on the big number, and that gave me 11 cycles. Because I'm a VIP, 11 times 80, 880 euros just dropped into my account. Pretty amazing. And that was literally while I was doing my regular career. Anyway, time goes by. Now, the units disappear for me, but they don't disappear for anybody else. They stay there until they convert to cash. They disappeared for me because they converted to currency at that point. All right? I have a conversation with a client of mine named Vince. He says, okay, I need some training. I need some help in my corporate business. So we cooked that up. He says, what else are you up to? And I tell him about gold. Vince signs up. He gets himself a VIP account. He brings a flood of people with him. Now George has got a bunch of units on his right leg, also on his left leg. And he calls me one day and he says, and I hadn't talked to George probably about 2 or 3 months, and he simply says to me, hey, Howard, I just found $3,500 on my account. I have no idea where it came from. And I just grinned and I said, well, George, I knew that sooner or later you were going to figure this out, and I knew that sooner or later you were going to call me, but I wasn't going to call you. He says, well, if I can make $3,500 with doing almost nothing, he says, you got my attention. And since about April of this year, George and I have been joined at the hip, and we're telling everybody. And I hope you can tell my enthusiasm for this, because I've seen it work not just for me, but for thousands upon thousands of people. This is how this works. And I want you to remember one other thing. You don't just get what's going on here, because every purchase that happens here, all those packages also go into your personal referral box. You get paid on that too. Both of these systems are working together, paying you 5 times a month. At Karatbars, you actually get paid 5 times a month. The personal referral box pays once a month, and this dual team that I just showed you pays every single Friday, 5 paychecks a month. And how do they get it to you? It's deposited onto this prepaid, they issue with a prepaid MasterCard. It's not a credit card, and your cash goes on there every single Friday. And I can tell you, I just got back from Europe. I paid for 3 weeks on that card. I used it for hotels, cars, pretty much everything. I use it at ATM machines here to pull my cash out, and there are mechanisms to drop that cash into your bank account as well. But there's more. This is a company that believes in gold savings. This is a company that believes in hedging ourselves against inflation. And literally what we're doing is we are creating a culture of savers that save in a better savings vehicle. And because Karatbars is feeling so strongly about this, they also, part of your compensation plan is in gold. Every time you get 200 euros in compensation, in commission, they give you another gram of gold. 1,000 euros, 2 grams. 2,500 euros, 3 grams. 4,000 euros, another 4 grams, in addition to whatever you acquired for yourself. Cash and gold generated perpetually out of a system. This is the most magnificent thing I've ever seen, and the reason why this is so powerful, as we demonstrated early in this presentation, one of the reasons why people don't save is because they're so stretched they can't afford to save. They're trying to make ends meet. We now not only have a better savings vehicle, but we've got an economic engine behind it that will literally begin to provide you with the cash flow from which you can begin to save. This is the most brilliant thing I've ever seen, and I have made it my life's work now. I have committed myself to going out and sharing this gospel with anybody who'll listen to it, because we all need to hedge ourselves against inflation, and I love what's happening here, and I've seen it reproduced so many times now. I've seen too much. I know that it works. And what I love the most, no spending, no storing, no selling. Listen, when I say no spending, all we're asking you to do is learn a better way to save money. You're actually not storing anything. You don't have to buy any jungle juice. You don't have to buy any vitamin pills. Forget about that nonsense. Learn to save. We learn to save. We get paid to show others to do the same thing. Saving money, protecting wealth, helping others. This is beautiful. And the perfect thing about this is you do not need to be a perfect presenter or a great salesperson. If you can just simply learn, using our simple formula, how to invite people to watch a webinar like this, or perhaps a video like we do sometimes, and they watch that video, they'll come to their own conclusion, and then we help them do this. We'll help you help them, and we grow together. Final closing remarks here. I just want to take you through a bit of the company history. The company was founded by a gentleman named Harold Zeitz in 2004. He's a multiples upon multiples of millionaire. Made his money in precious metals, insurance, and the investment arena, and just recognized that his wealthiest clients were all in precious metals, and that average people couldn't afford them. He also recognized that average people in Europe, just like here in North America, their incomes are being inflated away, their pensions were getting, the middle class is being eradicated, literally wiped out. He said there's got to be a way to help average people do what the wealthy do, and he set out to create a company bringing gold to the masses a gram at a time. From 2008 to 2011, he basically took 35 million euros, that's about $50 million in cash out of his own pocket, posted a bond with the German government to actually create this precious metals trading company, registered with the World Trade Organization as an e-commerce company, and invested the next 5 years creating relationships with the LBMA. Opened the door for business in 2011. From 2011 to 2012, first year, nobody had ever heard of this company, 2.2 million in revenue. Year 2, quadrupled to 8.5. Year 3, end of last year, we quadrupled again. We did about 31 million. This year, we're about halfway through the year, and we're sitting at about 75 to 80 million euros in revenue. Another quadrupling here. And we fully expect by the end of the year, we'll be 150 million euros plus, because we're just coming into the big end of the year. And it is fully projected that by the end of 2016, we will be $1 billion company. That's amazing growth in 5 short years. That, to me, is astronomical. And if you look on this chart here, we say from 2012 to 2014, those are the pioneering years. Getting the word out, getting recognized, getting known, making sure the systems work. 2014 to where we are right now, we are now in what's the accumulation phase, and you can see that we've already started going into this hyper growth curve. Ladies and gentlemen, I am suggesting to you, you are at the right place at the right time. There are billions of people on this planet, and we are just getting started. We're going to bring gold to the masses a gram at a time and get people financially whole in a broken world. We currently sit at 350,000 affiliates. It is widely projected by the end of next year will be 1 million plus. And this is not just about growth for its own sake. This is about setting millions of people free. That's what this is about. This is Harold Zeitz. I've met him 3 times now. And I'm not going to talk about all the times I met him. I met him once at our convention in Las Vegas. And in June, I was invited. We had 350,000 affiliates. I was part of a select group of 80 people that were invited to come to Germany for what was called the Elite Leaders Retreat. I had the opportunity to I was actually one of the presenters. I presented about 4 hours of content to the leadership team. And at the conclusion of that, 14 of us were invited to a 4-hour sit-down into Mr. Seitz' office, Herr Seitz in Germany. And at the end of that meeting, we got to hear about his vision and where the company is going, and there's so much we could talk about. That's another call for another day. This guy's got incredible vision. And I just simply said, Herr Seitz, thank you so very much. I said, Dankeschön. And he looked at me, he says, you're welcome. He says, and I want you to know something. I don't do this for me. I'm financially well taken care of. It is my goal that with Carrot Bars, I'm going to be able to help millions of people find financial freedom and get off the system of debt and get into financial wholeness. And I can tell you, we all have a skunk detector built right into us. When I heard him speak those words, you just knew. You could see it in his eyes and you could hear it in his voice. He absolutely meant it. This is more than gold. This is way, way, way more than gold. And we're going to go unenslave the captives from the debt wheel that they're on. That's what we're doing here. If I've shared anything with you tonight that catches your attention, that resonates with you, oh, come on, just go back to whoever invited you here and get their link and set yourself up with a free account. Even if you don't buy anything at present time, at least go look in the back end, see how it works, see how it operates, look at all the documentation. And if you believe that saving money is important, and if you believe that gold is a good vehicle to do it in, would you start creating a savings habit? Would you start hedging yourself against inflation? Would you start getting yourself a gram a week? And if you want to participate in the revenue that I just shared with you, Find Two will help you do it. Find Two, and then like the shampoo bottle says, lather, rinse, and let's repeat, and let's go build huge revenue, a big company, and let's go free the people. Because at the end of the day, I want to invite you to come and join us, because what we're really doing here is creating a debt-free, financially secure society, beginning with you and then later with me. And so with that, what I'd like to do now, I'm just going to look to see who's here. Well, I think we got some questions. If you got questions, you can type them up into the Q&A box, and I'll be happy to answer them. I want to respect your time, but if you have questions, I want to respect that too. And let me just see who's actually here with me, because my friend George might be here.